Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
A lot more Red and a little less Tom, at least out of the gate when Season 2 begins on September 22nd. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I personally hope to actually land on the blacklist this year. That's my personal goal. This week, we're going to talk about Season 2, just like we would every week. We're going to debrief you on all the intel related to NBC's hit show, The Blacklist. Show notes for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at goldenspiralmedia.com/The Blacklist.
As Aaron mentioned, we are going to look ahead at Season 2 on this second episode of The Blacklist Exposed. At least the little bit that we do know about, but we'll be kind of tiptoeing around it a little bit as we don't want to get too spoilery on you before the season even airs. We'll talk about some of the new characters that we've heard about, some of the Comic-Con highlights, as well as where we think the show may be going. But if it's a spoiler related to Season 1, gloves are off and they'll be coming fast and furious.
All right. Now, last week, we asked all of you our first Blacklist Exposed profiling question of the week. And that was, what was your favorite episode of Season 1? And the Facebook faithful responded. Rhonda Finney said the pilot series premiere. That's a really good pick. I agree with her. That's my personal favorite. Revty, Jamie, and Kendra liked Madeline Pratt. Now, that's the one, Troy, that you and I disagree with, because you like Madeline Pratt quite a bit, right?
I just like the introduction of like a pseudo Red at a female character. That's the only reason I thought it was interesting. Plus, of course, the Christmas Eve story about his family gives us that backstory. That is, of course, if he's telling the truth.
He's probably not. Kat, Robert, Keith, Jan say Onslow, Garrick, 1 and 2. Linda, Heather, Monique, and Sonia say the stew maker. I guess they like it a little gross. That's what that episode was. Sandy says Wu Jing. I say, is it Wu Jing or Wu Wing?
Either way works.
I like Wu Wing because that sounds kind of romantic.
Exactly.
Savannah, Yvonne, and Carrie say The Good Samaritan.
I was surprised to see The Good Samaritan actually come up on this list.
Hey, everybody, actually 3 times. And everybody likes what they like.
Yeah, but the big one, of course, Stu Maker and Ansel Garrick. I think we all agree that those are the best ones from Season 1. And just as a quick reminder, as this is still a fairly new podcast, we want to let you know that if you want to answer the profiling question of the week, you can comment on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/theblacklistgsm, or you can tweet back via @theblacklistgsm, or visit our feedback section at goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback.
And as we mentioned when we first opened the show, this episode is solely about Season 2, and we're not going to mention anything. You know, there's rumors around the internet. This happens, that happens. We're not going to talk about that. We're only going to talk about things we actually know. We don't want to spoil the show for anyone. And going forward, all we're going to do is speculate. So once we watch an episode, we'll talk about the spoiler or the things that happened during that episode, but we won't talk about anything further. And because of that, this episode, like Troy said, we're going to talk about Season 2, where we left off, most importantly. There's nowhere more appropriate to start than Raymond Red Reddington. The last thing we saw him do was turn himself in. Now, why do you think he did that?
I'm not quite so sure.
Really? No theories, personal ideas?
Well, the big thing that we're going to find out in Season 2, I'm sure, is the task force has been pretty much decimated. So I'm really interested to see how Red operates. And is there another person in the FBI that's going to kind of work with him as we move forward? Or is Red kind of going to be on his own with his own kind of posse? And then, of course, utilizing Liz to his own accord.
I like that. I want to know, because obviously they have to get him back in the mix. So exactly, I'm curious how that's going to work out. And you know it's got to work out some way, because he's either going to be broken out again, or he's going to make that same deal and it's going to hold enough water for that deal to hold. I don't know how you do that based on the events of Season 1. What do you think he's going to offer to make that start happening?
Well, the big thing that we found out from Season 1 was this kind of Illuminati group with Mr. Fitch, and how many of those people might want to work with Red to take out some of these bad guys. So will we see somebody from that group start to pull Red strings a little bit as the second season begins?
That's curious. I don't know. He's obviously going to have a big case to get things going. And I'm really curious what that case is going to be, because he has to, he already took them on this path. Now he has to get them to really want to do business with him again. And he's kind of lost some trust. So we'll see what happens.
Well, one trust that he still has that he kind of earned back towards the end of the season was Elizabeth Keene herself. Now she's going to be reeling from this epic fallout from the Berlin conclusion. Her husband is at large. She assumes he's probably dead because that's where she left him. But the big question is the secret that Tom told her just as he, quote unquote, passed out, since he didn't actually die, unless someone just removed the body and he is actually dead. But the big thing is, how does she adjust? I mean, I'm assuming she's not going back to her house to live there because it's being watched or staked out by somebody, whether it's Red's group or not Red's group. And then how does she interact with Red because there is no task force to interact through?
With Keene, I'm really curious. Part of me wants to know, is she really trusting of him now, or is she just kind of manipulating him? She's using the tools that she learned from the first season to manipulate Red to find out more about her situation, because she still knows he killed her dad. And even if they had that slight bit of come to Jesus meeting at the end, I don't know if I really buy that she's 100% back on board with Red.
And I think we'll see how that plays out in just a little bit. The big question, though, is where does she, in a mindset framework, is she going to rely on Wrestler a lot, since they had this kind of relationship kind of forming towards the end of season 1? Or is she going to truly branch out on her own and start to make other contacts that she might have through other agencies?
Well, first off, do you think she's going to come back to the task force? I mean, that might be one way that the task force starts, again, is that she commits to coming back to it, right?
Possibly, if a task force even exists. Maybe Red actually reaches out to her and she sides more with Red and becomes part of a rogue operation.
Well, that's one interesting theory. Obviously, we're going to know in a week or so we won't dwell too much on that, but that's an interesting theory. What about Tom? We know he's this shady double agent guy. When we last saw him, he was shot, apparently dead. Turns out either he leaves one heck of a trail as they drag him to the street, or he found a way to survive. What do you think's going on with Tom?
Well, they did mention that Gina Zanatakos, or as we like to call her, Zany Tacos, because everybody's hungry, she was at large at the end of the episode. Did she come and find Tom and pull him out? Even though Red set them up and they were apparently kind of played against each other and they didn't know each other, do we find out later that maybe they did know each other and they are working for the same organization? The real question is that Berlin's organization or somebody Berlin contracted, and Tom's still, quote unquote, a good American?
I don't think he's a good American. He killed that woman, Jolene Parker, and that was not in, whoops, I didn't mean to do it. He very, very adamantly killed her, and it was very intentional. And then he also killed, Cool Cowboy. So I don't think he's a good guy at all. I don't think there's even a shade of good.
Did he kill her, though, from a perspective of bad guy, or did he kill her from a chain of command? You messed up, you stepped out of line, I now have to clean up your mess and get rid of you because Berlin will be pissed if I don't.
That doesn't sound like a good guy to me. That's still, to me, a shady bad guy. He's not someone that I would call a good guy or even shades of gray. He's very adamantly a bad guy. And what about Cowboy? I mean, he just point blank killed him.
Wow, that was a mission. It's just like you'd kill somebody on the battlefield, soldier taking out another soldier, enemy line kind of thing. So Cowboy went just because it was an enemy combatant. Jolene is the interesting one. Did he have to take her out, or did he want to take her out?
I think you're trying to justify Tom. I don't like it.
I just like the character. I want to see more of Tom and what he could do and who he's working for.
I'll tell you exactly what he can do. He can kill innocent people and some not so innocent people.
Well, some of the characters that we probably don't care about, and it's, again, no fault of Mr. Lennox's acting in any way, shape, or form, but we have him, Harold Cooper, and, of course, Donald Wrestler kind of hanging out there, one sitting in the hospital. And for me, I'm hoping that they leave him in potentially like a coma status for first couple episodes of the season. Let's only bring him back when Harold Cooper actually has something to offer to the overall mythology of the show.
Do you think they're going to let him sit there in the hospital bed for a couple episodes? Is that what you're hoping happens?
I could see it happening. I mean, the question is if there's no task force, How quickly is he going to recover to be able to lead a task force? And if he can lead the task force, who's going to want to work for him with everything that's happened? So it might make more sense to have him kind of come out of the coma gradually and not focus so much on his recovery right out of the gate.
I said this in our last episode. Unless you have more for him to do, I'm fine with that. In fact, kill him off if that gives you motivation. Lennox is fine. I like Lennox. I think he does a fine job with what he's been given, but I really just don't think the writing has been there for him, and his character's been very one-note. So if you're not going to juice up that character and make him a little bit more relatable or responsible for portions of the story and not just a figure that stands there and barks orders and has a little bit of a shady background, then I say take him out of the story. I really want him to be more focal than what he's been. And Dressler, he was starting to get very interesting near the end of the season. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think Donald is the one character I want to see more of in season 2. I especially want to know more about the people involved with him and the backstory of this concept of when he was actually chasing Red previously in another life, if you will, and who are all of the pieces of the puzzle that are tied to Ressler and Red. We got a little bit of that backstory, both with the Ansel Garrick situation when they're trapped in the box, and then again in Mako Tanita when his fiance ends up getting killed. So I'd like to see those stories. Who else has been chasing Red over these years, and how do they tie back into our main characters?
Well, that's going to do it from where the show left off. We did a full recap in season 1, like we talked about in our episode last week. So if you need that deeper recap, please be sure to check that out at goldenspiralmedia.com/The Blacklist for all the details and how to subscribe. From here on out, we are looking solely at the future of The Blacklist.
Here's what we know thus far about season 2. Just summarizing it in a couple of sentences. Basically, Comic-Con happened and everybody was just crazy there because they actually introduced a new recurring character in Mary Louise Parker. Now, series creator John Bokenkamp said absolutely nothing on this former Weeds star other than one line. She is completely tied to Reddington. What do you speculate on that, Mr. Peterson?
Former love, maybe it's Keen's mom. We don't really hear a whole lot about what happened to Keen's mom, right?
This is true. I would assume that it's not a wife because he said his family was butchered.
Yeah, but see, I think we're making the mistake of taking everything he said at face value. I think we really have to look with Red. I think you really have to, the truth is in the details. And I think he leaves a lot of things very vague. So I wouldn't rule out anything until the story really gets going. I think there's a familiar tie.
I think it's sister.
His sister or Keen's sister?
Reddington's sister.
Is she old enough to really be his sister?
I don't know. We'll have to see how they play her up inside the show when she comes onto the screen.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a family tie.
And who knows? And that might be Keen's mom in the long run.
That's my theory, is that maybe it's Keen's mom. We'll find out. Spader himself added from Comic-Con that the second season of The Blacklist sort of blew up at the end of the season and allowed the second season to become more expansive. We start to learn a little bit more about Reddington and his mythological history. I like that he uses the term mythological because to me that says not quite true.
As in he might be just a big fat liar this whole time and doesn't really have this network of criminals and things that have happened in his past?
No, not so much that. Obviously he does have this huge network or he wouldn't be able to connect the way he does. It's I think some of the story elements that he has shared thus far are not exactly truthful, and some things he has stated in a light to make himself look better is kind of what I'm getting at. Mythological implies that there is some definite truth to what he's saying, but there's a lot of additional information, little jockeying it up, trying to make it sound a little sexier than it really is.
I totally agree. And the other thing I like about mythology is that it's not going to be a procedural week to week. There's a deeper story, a deeper thing that keeps it all intertwined and connected. And for me, those are the types of television shows that I love watching is it might have a C story, if you will, for the week to get the viewers hooked on that week to week basis. But in the end, there's a B story and an A story. Veronica Mars is one show that did this really well, where they had this big A story of who killed Lily Kane, and then they had this kind of 3-part B story and then a C story each week. And if that's the way The Blacklist goes, throughout this season 2 progression, I think that's going to be totally awesome.
I think more and more shows try to do that every season. Very, very few of them nail it. Veronica Mars is a good point. Breaking Bad's another one where, you had that overall arc, and then you also had portions of story as it went. I really think the Blacklist would benefit from something like that because, you want something that's going to keep you invested. They really lost people last year. I think they had a little bit too much week to week to week. Criminal of the week, criminal of the week, criminal of the week. I think the audience really wants something that's going to bring them back. And especially when you have those breaks like this show has, it's helpful to have that narrative that will have the entire season arc, as well as the little pieces that'll keep you wanting to see every episode, as opposed to, I'll catch the next one when I catch it.
And the one thing I don't want to see happen is where they kind of play to the television break, where there's this kind of cliffhanger moment or shock moment before they go into the commercial, because most people are watching it on DVR. It was the most DVR showed last year. We don't want to have this kind of suspenseful build up and then you just jump right to the next thing. And I especially don't want to see like episode resolution and then the one little nugget with the last minute to go that gives me the cliffhanger into next week. I want it to be a cohesively wound story through the whole season and not just a week-to-week filler to push the next episode.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Now, also joining the cast this year is Mozan Marno, who will be joining Red's team playing the role of Tamar Latzman. I guess you'd call him a babysitter, if you will, for lack of a better term. He's actually been hired by Red to keep even closer tabs on Liz so she can't go behind his back. This, of course, makes the job of keeping secrets even more fun and intriguing to watch between Liz and Red and their relationship. And this kind of immediately sets up a flag of, well, how can Red hire somebody unless he's running the show and the task force isn't in play?
That's a good question. And that's one I don't even have a theory for yet. This is a character I want to see and hear some dialogue, see some emotion, see exactly what I think they're going to do with it. The little tidbits that they're throwing out there have been very minute. So I really want to get a better feel for what the character is actually what purpose they're going to serve. What do you think?
I hope that this character doesn't take away from Wrestler's capability. I don't want her to be like the sidekick to Liz or the partner to Liz. I really liked the budding relationship between Liz and Wrestler last season towards the end. So I'd like to see that get explored more. I don't know how they will do that because the task force is in such disarray. What I hope is that this is more of kind of a quippy off the cup kind of relationship, and that she actually seeks out Wrestler because she's so pissed off about this guy. Okay,
I like that. That's good. Did you hear, Troy? We actually have the title for the premiere episode now.
Oh, we do. First Big Bad.
It's called Lord Baltimore. And surprise, it is another big bad that is out to end Red's life. Plus, most of the season premiere will focus on Liz trying to move on with her life after the events that occurred at the end of last season involving her husband, Tom, which we talked about quite a bit. So where do you think they're going to go in this premiere? I already don't think they're going to mention Tom, and I think it's been alluded to in the press. They were very adamant that Tom won't be present in the premiere. What do you think they're going to do in this episode?
My guess is that if there's somebody out to kill Red, then Red's going to reach out to Liz asking for help. The question is, what mental state will she be at? Will she be like on the run? Will she be trying to hide from the law because maybe she did something that the FBI doesn't like about the situation as it ended at the end of last season? I'm really curious to see what her living arrangement is like. Is she going to be, on her own and kind of like and you hate to say it's CIA safe house because they're not CIA, they're FBI. But is she going to be in some kind of safe house, and is that something she puts together, or is that something that Red set up for her?
Why would she be in the run? She didn't really do anything wrong.
There's just something about Berlin and the hangover from that, and Harold goes down, and then, of course, you don't have anybody really running the post office. It just may not be safe there. I mean, who are you going to trust after all of this went down last season?
Okay. I think it'll be curious because for season 2, for a show like this, they almost have to reinvent themselves because of the events of last year. So I think it's going to be shaped very similar to a pilot to some degree. They really had a huge marketing push for Blacklist. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of story elements, but they're going to do it in a way that a newer viewer could easily latch onto. And I'll be curious how they go about doing that.
Well, and the big question is, did they write it for the 8 episodes because it's a short run in the fall? And is that 8th episode going to be a cliffhanger into the Super Bowl special? Or is it going to be a, finite, done with, act 1 of season 2 is over, and they launch almost like a whole new season post Super Bowl?
I think it'll be a mid-season finale. That's pretty prominent right now. That's the trend.
Would that be a Berlin reuniting moment, probably?
It's very possible. I think we'll have to wait. That's way too early to speculate on that one. It could go anywhere at this point.
Spader actually did an interview with TV Line, and he hinted that if you had questions about the Red-Liz parental relationship, he thinks that they'll be quickly put on the back burner as season 2 gets underway. He actually hinted that the immediate relationships are just as intricate as to the entire story as is the relationship between Red and Liz. So he guesses, that's Spader, that this is actually what's going to intrigue the audience during season 2 more, is these little personal touches, these little intimate relationships that we see develop over these first 8 episodes, rather than the big question of what is Red and Liz's relationship.
That's very interesting. As for the task force that was pretty much decimated in the finale, Red will also have new protocol for how he operates himself and with the FBI. His goals are similar to season 1, but the outcome is now a little different than originally perceived.
That outcome being, how do I protect my own life? Because I now know that there's people out there that I didn't even know about.
Isn't that always his protocol?
I would assume so.
Pretty much everything is, how do I save my own butt?
It'll be good to see how he actually does that and who he's actually interfacing with at the FBI. I'd be curious again to see if we see more of Mr. Fitch and company as season 2 progresses.
Definitely.
And then our final season 2 tease for you is that at some point, Red and Berlin will indeed, well, I'm not going to give that one away because we don't want to throw out too many spoilers here. So what we actually want you to do is have some fun with that exact statement. You can actually tweet us at the Blacklist GSM, drop us a note by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback, or you can even give us a phone call at +1 304 837 2278. That number again, Aaron?
+1 304 837 2278. And again, that comment is our final tease for season 2 is that at some point, Red and Berlin will what? What will they do?
They'll make scrambled eggs and bacon together.
I think you're wrong. You're already wrong. Nobody answer that response because that's wrong. Sausage. If they're going to make anything, it'd be sausage. Now we're going to talk about some of the biggest questions for the Blacklist for this new season. What we think and if we think they will be answered this season. Keep in mind, we're not going to discuss any definitive spoilers for season 2. These are just theories and opinions, and we are random fellows. So please email us if you think we're nuts. Number 1, Troy?
Is Red Liz's father?
I still say yes. I have no reason to think otherwise.
I still say no.
Well, one of us is right. Where the heck is Tom anyway? What do you think?
I'm going to say he is extradited to a foreign country for healing and repairs through some kind of shark bone marrow transplant.
Wow, that is an extreme theory. I like it. I think he's a lumberjack. That's what I think. He's undercover as a lumberjack right now.
Canada?
Mm-hmm. He's hanging out with Dexter. Yep.
All right. What is Red's end game, Aaron?
I think his end game ultimately, and this is all seriousness, I think his end game is ultimately to protect Liz and avenge the death of his family.
I would go with the avenge the death of his family, but I think his end game is to get back something of whatever he lost. So whether that's his career in the Navy or if that's getting back a family of his own through Liz, but definitely avenging his family's death, I think, is top priority.
Okay. Who is Berlin?
I said brother from the get-go, but it would seem too easy if they don't know each other. Or maybe it's he didn't know that he was his enemy because he thought that they were on good terms. And that kind of double speak, the mythology that you were talking about. So I'm going to still say brother somehow, some way.
I'm going to probably stick with brother. And I would really love it if they could do some kind of cool tie-in with Prison Break. That would be great. Because Peter Stormare was great on Prison Break.
Can't let that one go, can you?
Sure can't.
The girl in the locket. Who is it?
I actually want to say it's Keen.
I'm going to say it's Red's wife, potentially.
Okay.
Who may have been Berlin's daughter.
Ooh, I like that. That's good. I like that. What really happened to Red's family?
He talked about that in Madeline Pratt so succinctly and so calmly that there had to have been some amount of truth in it. And with him blowing up the house after he bought it, I think solidifies that something really, really, really horrific happened to his family. Whether they were butchered, whether they were murdered, whether they were burned in a fire of their own, I don't know. But something really bad happened to this family, and he assumes that they're all dead.
Yeah. See, when it comes to what really happened, I don't know. I think he blames himself, but he also blames, I think, the government, possibly Cooper. Maybe he thinks Cooper's involved. I definitely think the shady organization that he deals with currently, that he knows the secret of, so don't kill me because I know the secret, that under the government organization, I really think that they had something to do with this too, and I think he wants vengeance upon them as well.
Liz seems to be able to pick locks. Where do you think she learned that from?
From her dad. Her dad that died. Her dead dad.
From Sam.
Yes.
We're trying to, is it Sam? Is it Red? Or is it somebody else? Or is it Berlin? You don't know who her dad is, right?
No, her fake dead dad.
Her fake dead dad. Yeah, and that's an interesting comment because when you go back to the pilot and Red is talking about Liz's father being a criminal, that could apply to Sam. So was he talking about Sam in that conversation? Because I think she learned to pick locks from her dad. The question is, which dad did she learn from?
Yes, it is. Oh, the theories that we could have with this. We'll find out. Why did Red remove a photo from the Stewmaker's book?
My guess is that it was either a personal memento for him or he was doing it as a block. He didn't want Jolene or Tom or somebody else to get the photograph.
I agree with the second part. I think he was doing it so that it wasn't uncovered.
But then why is he staring at it lovingly at the end of the finale?
Hey, I don't have all the answers, man. All right? I'm just going with what I think. I have no idea.
Now, I like this question because this goes to this smaller, intimate relationships that Spader was talking about. How do you think Red and Dembe actually met for the first time?
I think it was a blind date. I think they were both looking for love, and they both lead really, really exotic lives, and they don't get to meet people. And it just happened. It was magic.
I wonder if he was working with somebody and then ran into a trafficking cargo ship or something and just took a personal interest in Dembe. There has to be something simple in the answer, but yet something personal in the answer at the same time as well. Because I think that would be a really great backstory episode.
I like my answer better because I want a love connection. You know, why not? Let's just shake it up. Does Tom really love Liz, or was that a lie too?
He played it off so well with the adoption stuff, and then we still don't know if that first episode was really a setup to get captured and be stabbed, or if that was truly fear coming from him back towards Liz in that pilot episode. I'm going to say he does have feelings for her. How far and deep those feelings go, though, I think is still speculative.
I agree. I think it'd be very hard to pretend to be in a relationship with anyone for that period of time and not have some semblance of feelings, especially once you get to know their character and their, personality and who they are, what they do and how good a person she seems to be. I don't know if he would give up the mission for her, though.
I don't know. It depends on what you think of the mission being. So is his mission just whatever Berlin was having him do, or is there a greater mission that he's involved with at large?
No, I think there's a much greater mission. I just don't know what it is yet.
Wrestler and Liz, are they going to hook up?
Oh, yes, at some point. Not this season, but I'm guessing in the next couple seasons because they're already setting it up like dominoes.
Would this be more akin to Jack and Annie relationship? Like towards season 7, season 8 of 24? Or would this be more like, I don't know, just cops and robbers, kind of fun joking around Brooklyn Nine-Nine type of relationship?
No, I think there's going to be some kind of love there because in my opinion, they almost intentionally set it up so that they would become affectionate toward each other. I mean, they killed off his fiancée. I mean, I'm almost positive the writers were sitting there writing this down going, you know what? We mentioned that he's got a fiancée he's getting back together with. She's going to be single soon because her husband's a spy. Yep, I guess we're going to have to cut her out. So we'll just write this assassination that goes bad. Got it? That's what I think happened in the writer's room. They're definitely going to be a couple.
And not that we wish any ill will on Diego or wrestler's character, but that's what makes one of these shows really awesome, is that you could build that relationship up for an entire season or 2 or 3, and then literally have wrestler die and have that powerful moment where Liz has to deal with that as it's her partner and her lover at the same time.
Exactly. And then you could do what Alias did and screw it all up, bringing him back. Just a theory. Just a theory. So why do you think Red turned himself in ultimately?
Ultimately, I think he wanted protection. He knew some big bad was out there, and he figured enemy of the enemy is my friend, and he wanted to stay guarded with some kind of protection and way to keep himself off the map, hidden, if you will.
Okay, I agree with that.
Then there was this whole concept of Kuwait. And what did Cooper do in Kuwait? Are we ever going to get to that story, or are we going to have to put that on the back burner because of his current condition?
It seems like he's still part of the series, so I think that's still going to be a factor going forward. And I do want to add, I like having these questions because I think it's a good way to broach the season quickly without having to rehash everything.
Liz has this scar in her hand, and it could just be the way the scar happened. But then we saw on Tom's box and Gina Xanatakos' box the same exact symbol. Is this symbol something more or just a coincidence?
That's a really good question, man. It's gotta have relevance, obviously. Now, I have a hard time, knowing what that relevance would be, but I'm sure there's some association with Berlin there.
Or a third-party organization, because we still don't really know who the Mr. Apple Eater was really working for at the end of the day, do we?
No, we don't. You think like a third group, huh?
Potentially.
Well, I think there's probably a few more that are going to come into the mix. I mean, especially if they're going to keep it going over a couple seasons, several seasons, they're going to need to introduce more than just, Red and Berlin to keep it going.
Well, and then the bigger question is Lucy Brooks. Was Lucy Brooks part of Berlin's organization, or was she like a subcontractor to the contractor?
At this point, I think subcontractor. I haven't seen anything to indicate otherwise, but they've also left it vague enough to where it could be directly for Berlin or actually someone else. You never know.
And then what secret did Sam want to tell Liz that Reddington was willing to partly act out of mercy, but partly act out of self-interest to kill his best friend?
That's the big one, isn't it? Isn't it that's the big question, I think. My personal opinion, I want to know that more than I want to know the whole, and I'm sure it leads into, is he her dad or not? But there is something there that is extremely important to the show as a whole. And, especially when Red said it wasn't his secret to tell, I really there's some sincere emotion there. And I wonder how deep that secret goes. Did it affect just Keen? Did it affect some of the players around Keen? Like, would it have endangered what they were trying to do with the Blacklist because it would have implicated some people? I'm not sure. I can't wait to find that one out. I don't know what that secret is. Do you have any theories?
Well, there was talk that Sam had part ties with his financial operation, so he'd be tied to Lou Lee in some way. And I'm just thinking that scholarship fund. He was just setting some money aside, wanted to let Liz know it was there so that when she did have a child, that there'd be money for the child to be taken care of.
That's a good theory. I like it. What information does Red have that's preventing Mr. Fitch from killing him?
That is the most interesting question, because being an Alias fan, I loved the 12 and the concept of this mastermind global organization, multi-countries working together. And we kind of get that inkling from Mr. Fitch's group. And that secret that he's holding over Fitch kind of keeps that group at bay. And I really want to see the interplay between Red and that group this season. Like, either each person in the group has some story and some Blacklist member tied to it, or he literally goes through the group in order to get to Mr. Fitch eventually and takes him out one by one.
My personal opinion, this is completely, there's really nothing to indicate that this theory would be accurate at all. It's just my wild, hopeful idea. I personally have this theory that this underground organization, this little underground government organization that Fitch is working with, is involved in something huge that Red found out about when he was, in the Navy. And for whatever reason, those people had his family killed. So he still holds the secret. And he's been amassing this network. So he had the ammunition, because he knew he couldn't bring them down by himself, to eventually bring these people down.
Makes sense.
Hey, that's my personal theory. From what I've gathered, that's where I'm at this point.
Do you want to see that exposed quicker or slow burn over multiple seasons?
As long as they don't make the mistake of giving me not enough information, I don't want it dragged out forever. Give me some indication, give me some pieces, and give me more than just enough. So like when the season's over, I should have, I look at it as, say a show goes 7 seasons, right? I look at it as you got 7 steps to the door. So from wherever, whenever you start the show, that's where you're sitting down, the door's 7 steps away. Every season should be one more step toward that door. And if you don't take that next step to the next level or whatever, if you're just basically running around in circles, that's when you start losing people and they get bored with the serialized story you're telling. So as long as they take a step forward and give some of that mystery away, I'm okay.
No, I'd be happy for 7 seasons, but I'm also good with 5 too. I don't want it stretched out too far. I want to make sure it gets nice and buttoned up before it gets too kind of fillery, bad guy of the week, just to kind of get to that point of carrying out the story just to make the cash.
Oh, it's network TV, man. They will it will go as long as they can take it.
Especially if that $44 million check keeps getting written by Netflix.
That's true. That's exactly true. So why did Red blow up his old house?
Just pure pain. If you're going to get rid of pain, the best way to do it is firecrackers. Just, blow up a potato. You just feel better after that. Anytime something explodes, you feel better.
Remind me not to let you house sit.
Don't make me feel pain then.
But you just like to blow stuff up. I don't want to have anybody house sit that just likes to watch the world burn.
What about Liz? Secret criminal past or just downright good girl all along?
I don't think she's a downright good girl. She's shown obvious sides to herself that she's willing to go dark if she needs to. But a secret criminal past? No, I think they've been following her too closely. And hopefully this isn't like CTU on 24 where they just, let criminals in left and right. I would like to think they have a screening process to weed out any criminals.
I'm going to call it right now, no moles. We already somewhat did a mole story last season. No more moles. Just don't bring it in.
Wrestler's going to be a mole. Watch. Right after they start making out. What's up with Red's burn scars?
I clearly think there was either, and this is great because it's like so vague again, right? Either he came into his house and he said his family was butchered in that conversation in Madeline Pratt, but maybe his house and his family were being torched to death as part of that, butchering, if you will. Maybe he was trying to save his family from his house. Or, of course, the obvious that everybody thinks is that he was saving Liz from the fire at her house.
All right. I like it. I will subscribe to your theory. Pretty much agree with you. Yeah, I don't have a better option. I like it.
But, of course, the big question on everyone's mind is, when the heck does season 2 start?
I'm glad you asked, Troy. That is September 22nd, Monday, September 22nd at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. So are you ready for the Blacklist?
I am absolutely ready. And if I'm not ready, the good thing about it is that I have a whole weekend that I can binge watch all 22 episodes. So you can go ahead and purchase that DVD or Blu-ray for season 1 by heading on over to goldenspiralmedia.com/Amazon. Or you can actually become a part owner of this podcast, The Blacklist Exposed, and all of the great podcasts on Golden Spiral Media. You can actually head over to goldenspiralmedia.com/Patreon, and you can actually support all these great podcasts. Just a pledge of $5 a month will actually get your name mentioned as a supporter right here on the podcast. But more importantly, Aaron will actually record your outgoing voicemail on your cell phone.
I will, huh? Sweet. This is Aaron Peterson from the Blacklist Exposed. Thank you for calling. Don't get killed. Is that good? You got to write something cooler?
I think that's awesome.
Well, our next episode, we will discuss the season 2 premiere of The Blacklist titled Lord Baltimore. It's going to be airing at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on September 22nd, where we will go deeper into the show, getting additional details and deeper analysis of the intel, mostly through direct interaction with all of you. And I will be live tweeting the episode, so feel free to join in with the fun. First, you can follow us on Twitter at The Blacklist GSM, and also use the show's hashtag, The Blacklist. We also have a Facebook group, which you can join at facebook.com/groups/The Blacklist GSM. And our new website home will have all the episodes analysis and intel at goldenspiralmedia.com/The Blacklist.
We'll also be having our weekly profiling questions, so you can always respond to those with your thoughts. or any intel you'd like to share by giving us a call at +1 304 837 2278 or by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit your thoughts in writing, upload an MP3 of your voice, or just use your computer or smartphone to send us a voicemail. Right there's a button. You can get your intel right into the agency.
And as you leave your feedback, be sure to mention the Blacklist Exposed. And a big thank you for listening this week. We really appreciate it. Please review us at iTunes as well. I mean, that does the show wonders. We appreciate that. And don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. What question do you most want answered on Season 2 of The Blacklist? We'll talk about it next week.
Yes, until next time, I'm Agent Heinrichs, where you can also find me at underthedomeradio.com and resurrectionrevealed.com, or follow me on Twitter at Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can also find me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast. It's available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com, iTunes, and Stitcher. Be sure to come back next week for the Season 2 premiere. In the meantime, make sure to keep your name off
The Blacklist. The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2014. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.